13.4 Monitor stakeholder engagement. Monitor stakeholder engagement is the process of monitoring project stakeholder relationships and tailoring strategies for engaging stakeholders through modifications of engagement strategies or plans. The key benefit of this process is that it maintains or increases the efficiency and effectiveness of stakeholder engagement activities as a project evolves and its environment changes. This is from PMBOK Guide, page 530. Monitor stakeholder engagement inputs. Input number 1 is a project management plan, and the components we're using are the resource management plan to identify the methods for team member management. Communication management plan, because this describes the plans and strategies for communication to the project stakeholders. Stakeholder engagement plan defines the plan for managing stakeholder needs and expectations. Input number 2, project documents. Project documents that can be considered as inputs for this process include the issue log, the lessons learned register, project communications. Because project communications, these include the project communications that have been distributed to stakeholders as defined in the communications management plan and the stakeholder engagement plan, and also use a risk register and stakeholder register naturally. Input number 3, work performance data. This contains the information on project status, such as which stakeholders are supportive of the project and their level and type of engagement. And as I've said before several times, that when you're recording somebody's level of engagement, whether or not they're supporting the project, don't record their names where they're likely to find them. Input number 4, enterprise environmental factors. The enterprise environmental factors that can influence and monitor stakeholder engagement process would include organizational culture, political climate, and governance framework. The personal administration policies, stakeholder risk thresholds, established communication channels, global, regional or local trends, practices or habits, and geographical distribution of facilities and resources. The organizational process assets are input number 5, and these would include corporate policies and procedures for social media, ethics and security, corporate policies and procedures for issue, risk change and data management, organizational communication requirement, standardized guidelines for development, exchange, storage and retrieval of information, and historical information from previous projects. And a reminder that historical information from previous projects is where you'll find the various templates that you might use on your system. Monitor stakeholder engagement tools and techniques. Number 1, surprisingly, is not what you might think. It's not expert judgment. It is in fact data analysis. Data analysis techniques that can be used for this process include alternatives analysis. This is used to evaluate options to respond to variances in desired results of stakeholder engagement. Root cause analysis. This can be used to determine the basic underlying reason that stakeholder engagement is not having the planned effect. Because root cause analysis is something to find out what's underlying problems, what's right at the root of a problem. So the problem here is the stakeholders are not being engaged, and you've got to find out why. Stakeholder analysis helps to determine the position of stakeholder groups and individuals at any particular time in the project. Tools and techniques number 2, decision making. Techniques that can be used for this process include multi-criteria decision analysis. Criteria for successful stakeholder engagement are prioritized and weighted to identify the most appropriate choice. Voting can be used to select the best response for a variance in stakeholder engagement. Tools and techniques number 3, data representation. Techniques used in this process would include the stakeholder engagement assessment matrix. The stakeholder engagement assessment matrix monitors stakeholder engagement through tracking changes in level of engagement for each stakeholder. Number 4, communication skills. The techniques that can be used for this process include feedback. This feedback is used to ensure that information to stakeholders has been received and is clearly understood. Presentations. Presentations provide clear information to stakeholders, and they're usually quite an immersive thing, and people are likely to get involved. And presentations usually work better if they're interactive, if people are actually allowed to ask questions. Whenever I'm giving lengthy presentations, I don't always like to be interrupted, but I also hate going to a presentation which is lengthy and I got so many questions, and every time I put my hand up I'm told, no, wait to the end, and by you get to the end you've forgotten what your question was, or it's going to be out of context and so on. Tools and techniques number 5, interpersonal and team skills. Here we're talking about active listening, because remember we're talking about you have to make sure that the information has been received and it has been understood. Active listening is used to reduce misunderstandings and other miscommunications. Cultural awareness and cultural sensitivity help the project manager to plan communications based on cultural differences and requirements of stakeholders and team members. Leadership. Successful stakeholder engagement requires strong leadership skills to communicate the vision and inspire stakeholders to support the work and outcomes of the project. Now, a lot of the leadership will come from the project manager, but also you can expect it from the sponsor too. The sponsor is meant to be the evangelist for the project, going around getting people enthusiastic about it. And a sponsor can be a single person, and often is, but a sponsor can be a group of people or can even be an organisation, an external organisation. Networking. Network ensures access to information about levels of engagement with stakeholders. Political awareness. Political awareness is used to understand the strategies of the organisation, who can speak to whom, how should you speak to whom, how should you not speak to certain people, understand who has the power and the influence in this area, and develop the ability to communicate with these stakeholders. And be careful of just looking at somebody's role or title for authority. Some people who don't have the title have a lot of friends and they can have a lot of power, a lot of authority, and that's one of the things you need to work out as well. And you get people who technically have got a lot of authority but have got no interest in using it. Tools and techniques number 6, meetings. And the meetings could include status meetings, telling people how you're going, stand-up meetings. These can be very short, even water cooler meetings or car park meetings where you bump into people. I mentioned before that one of the companies I worked for, I kept scheduling meetings with the CEO, could never meet with him. He's always too busy. Then I discovered by accident that he did shopping at the local shopping centre every Thursday morning. So I did my shopping every Thursday morning, met up with him at the shopping centre. It only takes 10 minutes to transfer the information we need, because the average meeting, you come in, people will be late, so that's 10 minutes gone. Then we'll start talking about their holidays, what the kids have been doing, who's winning what sport, who's losing what, etc. Eventually you get 10 minutes of real communication happening. Then the rest of it's the old timers discussing how things used to happen 30 years ago. So stand-up meetings, they can actually be pretty useful. Okay, there's also retrospectives, and then there are meetings as agreed upon by the stakeholder engagement plan to monitor and assess stakeholder engagement levels. And don't be afraid of considering different types of meetings that you haven't thought of before. Don't be afraid of considering even a facilitator for some meetings. If you need a lot of information, you need it really quickly and you need it focused, facilitator can really help. Meetings are no longer limited by face-to-face or voice-to-voice interactions. Where face-to-face interactions, they are ideal, and you've got all this body language working for you, and you've got the networking afterwards, which is fantastic, but they can be expensive. I've gone to meetings before where I've had to travel across several countries for the meeting. A lot of people have vast expense, and a lot of the meetings could have easily just been A video conference. It used to be video conferences were prohibitively expensive. They're almost as expensive as flying. But nowadays they're easy. The technology is as close as your mobile phone. I use my phone sometimes to have meetings with people across 3 different countries, and it works so easy and it's cheap. Teleconferencing and technology bridge the gap and provide numerous ways to connect and conduct a meeting. Not to forget, of course, social interaction as well, social media, as long as the organisation permits social media. A lot of them don't, but that's going to be in your plan, what sort of media you're allowed to use. Monitor stakeholder engagement, the outputs. Output number 1 is going to be work performance information. This includes information about the status of stakeholder engagement, such as the level of current project support and compared to the desired levels of engagement as defined in the stakeholder engagement assessment matrix, the stakeholder cube, or whatever other tool you're using. Output number 2, change requests. A change request may include corrective and preventative actions to improve the current level of stakeholder engagement. As I often say, change requests are processed for review and action through the Perform Integrated Change Control process. Output number 3, project management plan updates. And you can probably guess what I'm going to say. Any change to the project management plan goes through the organization's change control process via a change request. And this is really important, which is why it keeps coming up again and again and again. So if you get one of these questions wrong in the exam, you will never forgive yourself because I've told you it 100 times. Components of the project management plan that may require change requests include resource management plan. Team responsibilities for stakeholder engagement activities may need to be updated. Communications management plan. The project's communication strategies may need to be updated. Stakeholder engagement plan. As information about the project stakeholder community may need to be updated. Output number 4, project document updates. And these would include our old friends, the issue log, the lessons learned register, the risk register, and the stakeholder register. And that brings us to the end of monitor stakeholder engagement and also to the end of project stakeholder management module. The next module is, oh dear, there isn't one. We've covered the whole PMBOK. Oh, but there's still one module left, the Code of Ethics and Professional Conduct. No, that is not actually in the PMBOK guide. Instead, it's a separate document that you can download from PMI. So the next lesson is 14.0, Ethics and Professional Responsibility. Please read the next section on the Code of Ethics and Professional Conduct before watching the video.